So in the previous video, we spoke about how to research on the right industry for you. Let us find out what if you are working in an industry and that is a wrong industry. What are the consequences of working in the wrong industry for you? TMD, can you answer that question for me?
Yeah, the most obvious consequence people talk about is salary differential. We will talk about it, but there are four dimensions. So I'm going to bring this, some of the dimensions are not well known, so people ignore the dimension. There's a tendency to all of us, once we decide to join some industry, we look at only the positive side. We don't look at the negative side and discover it much later and regret it. So my purpose of bringing your attention is to look at the all four dimensions. There are pluses and minuses in every choice that you make. And you want to be conscious. The only advantage of being conscious of the choice you make is you don't crib about it. You accept it because you are aware of it. You made a choice willingly, and therefore that gives you the strength to bear something that goes wrong. So the first major consequence of being in the wrong industry is career growth. We all know we joined the industry because we want to grow quickly. Everybody has a dream of becoming a senior manager in the company, a GM, VP. That's our dream. I think it's absolutely legitimate. So everybody wants to be somebody in the company. So the career growth varies from industry to industry. Not all industries grow at the same pace because the industry growing slowly, if you have to grow faster than the industry, you have to be extraordinary. That doesn't happen to many of us. Many of us are average, and we are also benefiting by the industry growth, right? So some industries, which are good examples to talk about today, we talk about two industries: electric vehicles on one side, or even better example I give you in energy industry. On one side is the alternative energy, solar energy, especially, and vis-a-vis thermal energy. Thermal energy is the oldest coal-based power plants are there. The coal-based power plants are not growing at all. Worldwide, there is a negative association with global warming, and they're not supporting coal power plants, whereas everybody is supporting alternative energy. So the industry growth itself is a very critical component of this. So if you join the wrong industry, the industry itself can slow down your career growth. So that's the first consequence. The second one is career instability. I want to emphasize this with an example of two characters in this case. One is, of course, Ravi and Raju, as we call. They all studied in the college together. They went to MBA school and premier MBA school. One guy joined the investment banking industry. Investment banking is a very, very attractive industry. It's a star. Everybody wants to join investment banking. Why? Because everybody heard of going to US, and US, a lot of people have made money in the investment banking space, right? So the mecca of all investment banking is US. In India also, a lot of companies are there in investment banking. So this gentleman, Ravi, joins investment banking, and Raju, traditional guy, he went and joined finance department in a very large established steel company. So let's again take a time leap of 15 years and see what happens after 15 years. So they meet after 15 years, right? And in this case, Ravi is sitting at home. And Raju is just picking up his career. He's already reached a level 15 years later to DGM level in his company, and he's going up further. What really happened? What happened was, in investment banking, it will be requiring you to huge amount of stress comes very early. They put the pile on the pressure, target pressure on day one. So what happened to Ravi? He got burnt out. In just a period of 9 years, 10 years, daily targets, every month, bonuses, and highly competitive, right? In Wall Street, they say that the most competitive space is equity broking or equity investments and investment banking. So he got burnt out. So therefore, the big risk of being a career instability means what? There's no continuity of career. You work for some time, you got burnt out, you take a break, and then you look for another job. So when he left the gentleman investment banking, he's not able to go to any other industry because there was a highly paying salary job. So in between jobs, he's hanging around. The whole is listless now. When I met him, he was completely lost. Right? Whereas the Raju has got an aim in life. He's getting a DGM. He wants to become a finance director of his company. So this is the career instability, the second dimension. Third dimension is, of course, poor lifestyle and property ownership. All of us want to take a job, we want lifestyle. Lifestyle means what? I must get a holiday abroad, I must buy a car, I must buy a house. All are dream scenarios, right? Again, we'll take about two industries. One is insurance and pharma. There are two guys again, Shyam and Sundar, who are good friends and again join these two industries. So one guy in the pharma industry, he joined the pharma industry. Pharma industry, typically you join a career as a graduate, not an MBA. You're a graduate. You join as a medical rep, and that's a career you build very slowly. And initially, your salary levels are low, so you build. The other guy in the insurance industry is very different. Insurance industry, if you join as a sales unit manager, many of them join as a unit manager. If you perform well, you just take off. That industry doesn't care about how many years of experience you have. They want to know how good you are, how fast track you can go. They'll support you. Bonuses are big, incentives are big. So these two guys again meet after 15 years. So our friend Sundar, who's coming from the pharma industry, comes in a bike, and this guy comes in a nice SUV car. The latest car and SUV comes there. These are classic examples, symbols of property ownership. What car, what vehicle? We always ask, what vehicle are you driving? We are very curious. That represents a lifestyle to many of us. So that's the classic difference. Some industries put you on a track where you can acquire properties, you can get a lot of money. Some industries allow you to buy property slowly, but it will take some time. You need to have patience to work that. The last dimension, the fourth dimension, is family life. Now, we use the word euphemism, work-life balance. It's very easy to talk about work-life balance. It's very difficult to get. Because what youngsters like all of us, we all want, what do we want to say? I want everything. I want money. I want career growth. I also want good family life. I want good health. How is it all this possible? So this is again a good case of two women. They were again batchmates in a good school. The one was Shanti and Uma. Shanti, both of them are bright, but both of them had clarity in their mind what they want to do. So Shanti said, I want to join a consulting company. The big consulting companies are fantastic in terms of opportunity for learning, opportunity for growth, opportunity for money. So we joined one of the biggest consulting firms. She married a doctor. And Uma, the second lady, went into, as we said, we went into again a finance department of a company. And she was also very stable. She married a professor. And 15, 20 years later, when they met, Shanti was divorced because she couldn't sustain the marriage. To keep a marriage alive, you need time with each other. And she was traveling practically 5 days a week in early part of her life in a marriage. So they didn't have kids, she was alone, whereas the other lady, Uma, was married happily with the professor. They had 2 kids, kids are studying in school. So here the instability of a family life is so critical for most of us. We take it for granted. Everybody has a romantic notion. We'll get married, we'll make babies, and have a good time. It doesn't happen. You have to invest in that marriage also, right? So obviously, for these 4 dimensions, every industry, if you make a wrong choice of the industry, you will probably pay a price in one of the 4 dimensions. So the idea is to get optimal numbers or optimal success in each of these 4 dimensions. Not that you can get the best of everything, right? So that's the point. The point I'm making is there are consequences of choosing the wrong industry. The consequences are not just money alone. It could be many other factors. So please think seriously before you decide what industry you want to choose.
So, Kemli, now that you've spoken about this, I have one question to ask you. You said Shanti was working in an aggressive consulting firm and she got divorced. Are you saying that women cannot work in consulting firms, or women who work in consulting firms, their marriages won't sustain? How do they create a balance when they are working in consulting firms?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. The first thing you do when you are, let's say, in a consulting firm is to choose a partner who is willing to accept that you will have an independent life, you will end up traveling. So a lot of discussion must happen before choosing the right partner. Normally, I would say consulting women, many of them, if you look at the data, consulting firms, very few of them make it to top. They all take a career break. Because at some point of time, the pressure of children, mother-in-law, in India especially, it comes to you. I'm not saying women should not join consulting firms, but many of them exit the consulting firm and go to end-use industries where they work. Right? But the fact is, if you want to maintain a lifestyle in consulting house, and your spouse and family has to support you. If they're not supporting to you, I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm not judging here, but I'm mentioning the facts as they are. There's a good probability we don't discuss such matters when we get married. We get carried away, and then therefore the spouse selection is very important. When you are in a high-profile career, sometimes the spouse gets very jealous. We have all seen the movie Abhiman, which is a very famous movie with Amitabh Bachchan in this. And so the spouse can get jealous. They might feel insecure because you're traveling all the time with male colleagues and all that. So I think you need a very mature husband, a person who's self-sufficient, who is very well off by himself. So that's, you have to make a careful choice of a spouse.
I have another question over here. That is, what if my industry that I choose to work in is a backward industry? It's not a fast-growing industry, but my company is at the top. My company is a good company to work for. Should I still look for an industry change? Should I still look for a better industry for me, or will my company's success and my company being the top achieving company be okay for my career?
No, absolutely. There's nothing like a right and wrong answer. You cannot say that I should join only high growth industries or a high growth sector or a very good company. Yes, your point is right. When the industry is not growing very fast, there still some be players will be growing very fast, right? It's because the employers in industries are also graded. Some of them are number one in the industry, number two in the industry. They're all growing at different paces. So your growth can be achieved even in the stable industry. Somebody will grow. So you might choose the right employer. So if you are in the industry which is not high growth, select at least an employer who's in a higher growth pattern. That's what I will say.
Thank you very much, Dean.